What's up, everyone? We're back at it here for a last-minute Q&A. It's going to be a pretty open video today. We'll talk through Holmes, Maxwell, Kim Potter will pop in maybe and get a verdict. Maybe we'll watch it live together. I think it's supposed to drop at about 2:30, and we say verdict, but they said the jury has actually come to a trial outcome. So you all let me know what you think that means. Let's see here. Let me make sure I have the video up and ready. Yeah, so I've got the live over here. I'll keep it up on the screen. I'm sure you all will let me know if the verdict comes down prior to me putting on that live video. For any of you that are new, my name is Peter Tragos. I'm the lawyer you know, and we started this page so that I could answer questions and talk with people, whether or not you know a lawyer or now it just seems like there are a million lawyers on YouTube. I'm sure you watch other lawyers, but just to answer questions you have, because in my life, I have tons of friends and family members that text me, hey, what do you think about this? Is this legal? Can they really sue for that? Can they mandate a vaccine? Can I get fired for this? What do you think about this trial that's going on? So we have been in, on that for the last about year. And when we started, we had literally 0 subscribers. We didn't start with, we had a couple hundred and then went from there. We had a big Twitter following or big Instagram following. We really don't have a big following anywhere. We're trying to get to 25,000 here. I am not a full-time YouTube lawyer. I'll never be a full-time YouTube lawyer. I'm a real civil trial lawyer, and we do criminal trials here and criminal defense as well. My dad's a king criminal defense lawyer. He's been on some videos. He was on the last Maxwell Live we did. So I just wanted to give a quick introduction for anybody that hasn't kind of been here along for the whole ride with us. But it's been really fun. And I'm not planning on becoming a full-time content creator, like I said, but my favorite thing is to do these lives and do the Q&As. So get in the comments and make sure you ask questions, and let's talk about what you want to talk about, whatever it is. I know I put some cases on here that we're going to do questions and answers. But oh, Grant Uber, are you serious? You're going to bring that in the chat, man? Oof. That's a heated subject. Maybe we can get a legal angle on it. Maybe we can get a legal angle on it with all this NIL money coming out and how that's changing college football recruiting, just to not hide the suspense. This is what Grant said to me. How do you feel about Travis Hunter flipping from FSU to Jackson State? Some of you probably don't care about any football or any sports, especially high school footballers like Travis Hunter, who's a stud recruit, was with Florida State the whole time, flipped to Deion Sanders. Now he's going to Jackson State. We can talk about that later maybe. But yeah, ask me anything today, legal or otherwise, and I'll try to get to as many of them as I can. It's going to be fun. It's kind of laid back. It's almost Christmas. I'm pretty surprised how many people are here already, but I'm excited because there's so much other stuff going on. So I'm glad that you've chosen to be here with me and with us. But yeah, so this is what we do. This is why we started a YouTube channel. It's what we're going to continue to do. I'm never going to be sitting here from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. streaming. That is amazing that people can do that. And the amount of endurance it takes to do that is crazy. Like, it's insane that people can do that. And there are a lot of cool lawyers that do that. Rakita does it, Rakita, however you say his name. I know Logic's done a bunch of those. Joe Good Logic, Legal Mindset, Nate the Lawyer. There's tons of good YouTube lawyers out there that I'm sure you watch. So I appreciate you joining in here with our show. Legal Eagle, I know, was one of the first big ones that did it. So tons of lawyers on here. But I like to keep it real, like you would talk to an actual lawyer, like you would hope a lawyer would be, because lawyers were kind of scary subjects. I think in earlier days, people didn't know, how much it's going to cost to come sit down and ask a lawyer questions, worried about billable hours and stuff like that. Can they trust a lawyer? Then we had the whole billboard lawyer thing come through, and commercial lawyer, which some people hate, some people love. So I want to kind of take all that away and give an opportunity for whoever decides to use YouTube to have an access to a lawyer. Now, I can't give legal advice on here, but I provide my email and contact information everywhere on our YouTube page, all our social media. Our website is tragoslaw.com, our real legal law firm website. So if you have real legal questions about a case you have or somebody has, whether it's personal injury, criminal defense, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, whatever it is, reach out to us. We can actually talk to you about your case. But this is more just for answering questions on what do you think about this? Is this really legal? That's kind of why we did this page. And, we'll continue with that today. So without further ado, let's get to some questions because I already see them coming in. And it's my favorite part. So we're going to get to them. So get in all the questions. Hello, Carlos. Very May. Do we have a verdict yet for Holmes? No, we do not. And not only do we not have a Holmes verdict yet, they have actually requested from the judge to take next week off. And if you look at what Maxwell's jury did, the judge asked them to come back and deliberate today. Yesterday, the judge asked them to come back and deliberate today, and they said, no, thank you. So this is how you find out. This is the judge's courtroom, right? The judge is in control. But once that case goes to the jury, once you actually have a jury trial, the jury is actually in control. The jury is actually the one that they're the ones that make the rules. And the judge wants to make them happy, wants to keep them comfortable so they can do their civic duty and come to an answer because that's what we all want them to do. So they all said in Maxwell's case that they had stuff to do today, which you can understand. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve. It's Christmas weekend. They were going to go be with their families or whatever. And it was really interesting because in these trying times, the judge didn't just implore them with the normal stuff, like in our cases where they say, don't talk to anybody, don't go on the internet, don't talk to anybody about the case, don't do any research, nothing. The judge also said, I need all of you back here Monday healthy. So please be careful and be cautious. Basically, don't go get COVID because then we're going to have huge delays. Then we could have a mistrial. Then we could have major issues. That's the big fear with letting jurors, and I don't want to say letting like they're in jail, but in allowing jurors or agreeing with jurors to let them off for a whole week, let alone Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 days. But then Holmes' jury wants Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 9 days. That's a long time to go be around a lot of people. And God knows what can happen today, symptomatic or asymptomatic. When you get tested and you have it, they got to shut everything down. So the judge implored with them to be safe. And it's just different curveballs. They tell us as trial lawyers, be ready for the unexpected or expect the unexpected, be ready for anything. And we're really living it, especially in today's day and age. Dawn is going to be in and out. Yeah. So I think it's going to, the actual verdict's coming at 2:30 our time, Eastern time, which is where I'm at. So I'm going to try to pop over, play that live stream, and we can kind of talk through it together. If it all works, if technology works with us. If not, we'll just talk about it. Steve Shy. Is it possible Maxwell will be found not guilty? I mean, possible in the sense that it's not shocking to people who watch the trial. I think it would be shocking if she was found not guilty, but I do think it's because of all of the overarching things that are happening with that case. I don't think, legally speaking, it would be the most shocking thing in the world if she was found not guilty based on the facts that were put out. But I lean pretty heavily toward a guilty verdict is what I'll expect in that case. So Lucia, my question is, why did the prosecution take only 4 victims on the stand against Maxwell? There were hundreds of them. And if you remember from the trial, 4 of them were not even allowed to be called actual victims of the sexual violence because their facts didn't fit into the criminal category. So that's a question I can't answer. And everybody wanted to hear from Virginia Potter, and we didn't get to. And people said she was the loudest before the trial. I don't know. I can't answer that question except for when we got into the mind of Binger, which is why those interviews are so cool. When you get into the mind of a prosecutor and they tell you exactly how they kind of attacked a case that they prosecuted, Binger told us, everybody that listened to the interview, he told us that he considered not calling Gage. And we would have all been like, how is that possible? Why would he not have called Gage? Well, after hearing Gage's testimony, we all would understand why he wouldn't call him. So I'm not saying that's why they didn't call other victims in this case, but that might be an indication. Yes, Daniel Kelly, Kim Potter has an outcome, not necessarily a verdict, but we'll see. So, Lucia, Kim Potter is an officer that shot a man at a traffic stop, and on her body cam video, she literally said, I'm going to tase you, I'm going to tase you, I'm going to tase you. He was resisting arrest. She shot him and said, oh my gosh, I grabbed the wrong weapon. I thought I was going to tase him. I accidentally shot him. My life is over. I'm going to jail. Just kill me now. Stuff like that. Admitting it was a horrible mistake, basically. So she was charged with manslaughter, basically a negligent homicide, reckless indifference. And her defense is that it was a mistake, but that under the circumstances, she did use reasonable force and she actually was allowed to use lethal force, even though she didn't mean to. So she meant to tase him, which everybody, I guess, agrees is appropriate force. She accidentally used lethal force, which while the prosecution and the victims obviously don't agree with that, the defense and their experts say she was in a situation where lethal force was reasonable. So we'll see if that's a guilty or not guilty verdict in 4 minutes, hopefully. All right, let's see what else we got. So, Don, they actually didn't say a verdict. They said an outcome. But I've been hearing news channels report that it actually is a verdict. So we'll see. Thanks, Don. Hello, Carolyn. Aaron, hello. Yes, the man above. Hit the like button, everyone. And subscribe. We're trying to get to 25K before the end of the year. I think we're like 500 subscribers away, maybe by the end of this video. Wow, Frog Green. To stop Netflix for this, that's commitment. Thank you, Eric. Love having you here. Don has a football podcast. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, the Travis Hunter commitment flipping was just gut wrenching, especially to do it. Dion to do it to us where he cut his teeth. It hurt. But we still have a good recruiting class. I hope Norvell's on the right track. My one thought is I'm not a guy that likes to jump ship on a coach real quick, and I'll get through the football talk quick for those of you who don't care. But it did make me think, should we have just hired Dion? Does coaching not actually matter anymore in college football? Kind of like the NBA, you just need to get the best players is what it seems like. If LeBron and a couple guys team up, you're going to be in the playoffs and you might make it. You might actually win. That is what it feels like college football is becoming if, in fact, Deion Sanders can just go get the number one recruit, even though he's at a small HBCU, which has a storied history and some great players that have played there. Okay, this trial is on here. This live link is on, so I'm going to try to share my screen here. Tell me if you guys can't hear it, and I'll try to fix it. All right, share screen, Chrome tab, share tab, audio, yes, share.
Please receive.
Put in the chat what you think it is right now, guilty or not guilty. 2 counts. We can get our votes in here while we're going to listen to it live. Jury is walking in, obviously, since everybody's standing. One last, everything's going to be okay no matter what the verdict is. Try to keep emotions in check if possible. We'll deal with whatever the verdict is after. That's what you tell a criminal defendant when you're standing there.
Members of the jury, have you arrived at a verdict? Okay. Will the deputy please retrieve the verdict forms and provide it to me for review?
Not a hung jury.
Would Ms. Potter please rise? I'm now going to read your verdicts as it will appear in the permanent court records of Hennepin County. In the matter of State of Minnesota versus Kimberly Potter, court file number 27 CR 21 7490, we, the jury, on the charge of manslaughter in the first degree while committing a misdemeanor on or about April 11, 2021, in Hennepin County, State of Minnesota, find the defendant guilty. And the verdict was agreed to at the hour of 11:40 a.m. and signed by the jury person on 12/23/21. The verdict on count 2 is we, the jury, on the charge of manslaughter in the second degree, culpable negligence on or about April 11, 2021, in Hennepin County, State of Minnesota, find the defendant guilty. And that verdict was agreed to at 10:30 a.m. on 12/21/21. Members of the jury, is this your true and correct verdict? So say you one, and so say you all.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, you may be seated. All right, I am now going to poll the jury.
Yeah, I wanted to see if they're going to poll the jury real quick. We'll listen to that, then we'll cut it.
Juror number 2, is this your true and correct verdict?
It is.
Juror number 6, is this your true and correct verdict? Juror number 7, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number 13, is this your true and correct verdict? Oh, it's juror 11.
That could have been a big deal.
And juror 17, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Look at the defense
Juror
lawyer.
number 19, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 21, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 22, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 26, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 40, is your true and correct verdict?
Guilty on both counts, up to 15
Juror
years, I
number
think, is what the
48,
first
is this your
degree
true and correct
manslaughter is.
verdict?
Yes.
And juror number 55, is this your true and correct verdict?
This is the Kim Potter verdict.
Members of the jury, when you first came into the courtroom, I told you that jurors are the heroes of our judicial system. Well, the 12 of you are our heroes in this case. You might remember that there was a question on the questionnaire that asked whether you wanted to be on this jury. You were to check yes, no, or maybe. A number of you checked no or not sure, and a few of you checked all three. But when I asked each of you,
All right. So we got our verdict. Guilty on both counts. Saw some questions coming through. I'm going to scroll through and we're going to hit the Kim Potter questions here. And yeah, we're not going to wait for the sentence. There'll be a separate sentencing phase. A lot of stuff happens between now and the sentencing phase, which we can talk about if you guys want to know, ask questions about it. She blew it when she said can't recall. That pause helps the appeal. So no, I thought so. So the reason the judge polls the jury, especially in a case like this where the jury actually asked a question, do we all have to be unanimous, indicating there was some kind of gridlock there that they couldn't come to an agreement. So when the judge said, juror number 13, is that your verdict? Everybody paused because they didn't immediately say yes, which all of them were saying yes in line. And what happened was the judge called the wrong juror number. She said, I'm sorry, juror number 11, is that your verdict? And the juror said yes. So that's why nobody really answered. They read the wrong jury number, which could happen for a million reasons. There's tons of numbers going around. We once we not kick jurors out, once we strike jurors, a different, like juror number 43 can be sitting in the second jury seat. So is it juror number 2 or juror number 43? Every judge kind of does it differently. Usually they keep their original juror number. So that's probably what happened, is judge just read the wrong number. That's why nobody answered. It wasn't because they were pausing or freezing on the fact that they came back with a guilty verdict. Aaron Pearson, I'm a bit surprised by that. We will talk about the verdict in a second a little bit more. 15 years, I think, is the max for this. She has no criminal history, so I don't expect them to give her the max. Second degree was also guilty. Daniel thinks it was an unjust verdict. I am Ing. First time I get to watch a verdict with so many people. Me too. Usually I'm standing right there next to the defendant. I don't think I've ever watched a jury or a verdict with anybody before. I'm usually the one with my arm around the defendant saying, no matter what happens, it'll be okay. And we'll deal with it. Talked about the sentence a little bit. Eric thinks she's pissed. Tioga said you did shoot a man. It's true. Sorry, Grant. I didn't see the what did I think beforehand, but I'll get to that. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, it looks like guilties on at least one of the counts, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 not guilties to 4 guilties. 12, 13 not guilty. So heavily not guilty here. Is what the guesses were prior to the verdict actually coming out. So what did I think about it? I thought in situations like this, I always think it's really difficult for cops. Stuff's happening so fast. I thought the fact that she mistaken the gun or the taser, the gun for the taser, was damning and no excuse. And they charged her with the right thing. They didn't try to get felony murder or something like that. They did do misdemeanor murder, I guess. But the problem is it's so hard for them to make these split-second decisions, okay? And you always have the if-then analysis. If he just lets him put the handcuffs on, goes in the back of the cop car, goes to jail, gets a lawyer, and goes through the process since there was a warrant out for his arrest, none of this happens, right? And if she never shows up to work that day, none of this happens. If she grabs the taser instead of the gun, none of this happens. So you can't just pick one thing out and say, if this doesn't happen, none of this happens. But I think it was a horrible mistake for her to do that. I think the defense was the absolutely perfectly logical defense, which is, even though it was an accident that she used the taser, she had enough of a self-defense or use of force fear for her life and the other officer's life, who did testify that if he would have run them over with the car, or he could have done something, they were in danger. They were in physical danger. Their safety was in danger. So that was the argument, that she did have enough to use that legal force. And that's what they put on. And I don't think they did a bad job doing that. I didn't watch the whole trial, just kind of clips of it. But I think the most damning part of this case, in my opinion, and you guys let me know, right? We all in this channel try to put bias aside, even though we all bring it in, I get it. But we put bias aside and just try to look at it logically. But for all the not guilties and people that are angry about this verdict. Now, what I hope is every time a cop pulls a trigger, I hope they're not going to prison for 15 years. Because sometimes it is necessary. And whether or not this time it was necessary, the jury found that it was not. I probably would have voted not guilty based on the evidence that I heard. But I do not think it was a slam dunk like some of the other cases we've just gone through, like Rittenhouse and Chauvin. And those cases, I think, were slam dunk and the jury's got it right. Ahmaud Arbery. But I think the guilty verdict came, and I can understand how the jury came to this guilty verdict, because when Potter herself had the opportunity to determine in that moment what force was necessary for this threat, she made the decision to choose the taser. She did not make the decision to use the gun. She could have used the gun. There's nothing in the rule book for cops that says you have to start with the taser, then go to the gun. There's nothing that says that. So from her perspective, I think the most damning thing was if we even ask her to be a juror on her own case, she thinks the necessary force was a taser, not lethal force. That's kind of where I can understand a guilty verdict in this case. We as lawyers can come and look at it a little differently and put on a defense and explain, no, I get what you thought in the moment, but what was actually happening, when we have this video, we can slow it down. We have these experts. You could use lethal force there, even though you didn't want to because you're a good person. That's what they're saying. I don't know her personally, but everybody that testified basically said she was a great cop and a good person. But I think that's kind of where it comes down to where what I thought was most damning personally. And, because when she had that opportunity to decide, she did not decide on lethal force, even though she messed up, which she admits to. New Chris, to whom much is given, much is expected. Being a police officer brings with it a lot of responsibility. A guilty verdict is appropriate here. I agree with you that to whom much is given, much is expected. And being a police officer brings with it a lot of responsibility. But in order for them to do their jobs, there has to be circumstances. If we're going to ask them to protect our lives, there has to be circumstances to which they can take measures that get to this force. I'm not saying this was one of those, but there was one I did a video on a long time ago where there was a big fight going on. A police officer ended up shooting somebody. It was a young girl, and she kicked somebody in the head and all this stuff. And everybody kind of agreed in the chat that the officer did need to use that force because she had a knife and was going after another girl. So, I think that we have to hold them to a high standard. Absolutely 100% is what I do in like all my trials. We hold officers to a high standard and make sure they did everything right. But I think that we want smart, good, caring people to be police officers. We don't want people that say, F this, F people that think this way, forget people that feel this way. I'm going to go be the law. I'm going to be the long arm of the law. That's not who you want going to be a police officer, somebody that's got an axe to grind. So I think we need to remember that we want good, smart, intelligent, caring people to be police officers. And if we're throwing them in prison for 15 years for mistakes, I think that's going to make it harder. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with this one, but I'm just saying that there have been cases that I have disagreed with in the past where officers have gotten convicted. And this one, like I said, I think one of their issues is the decision she made. Juana Michelle, stuck in the snow. Your channel's the highlight of my day. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. Where are you at that you're stuck in the snow? I'm going to North Carolina next week, and my fingers are crossed. Somebody asked me what my Christmas plans were. Christmas Eve, we always do either at my in-laws' house or my parents' house or with my sister. We do that kind of as a family. We go to church, Christmas Eve candlelight service. And then Christmas morning, always at my house. It's one of the things me and my wife started early on. Our house, wake up early with the kids, go downstairs, open all of our presents, just us as a family. Then we have a big Christmas dinner where everybody, both sides of the family and friends in town who don't have family, come over to our house for Christmas dinner. We celebrate it all together all day long. We do a happy birthday, Jesus birthday cake with my kids for Christmas as well. But it's a lot of fun, and those are kind of our Christmas plans. All right, I'm going to scroll through here again and get to more questions. Some will be on Potter, some won't. Potter. Let's see here. Kirsten, yes. Glad you get to the live too. Get your daughter on. Miss Wee Lassie, it's the holidays. The holidays always throw us for a loop. Steve Sheep, if Epstein would have just provided adults to people like Gates and Andrew, I'm not going to agree with you that he provided anything to Gates and Andrews. And Prince Andrew. I don't think that's been proven yet, although it's been speculated. Would everything have been okay? So you can't traffic humans, period. I know child sex trafficking is what a lot of people talk about, but human trafficking is also illegal. Prostitution is illegal in most areas. So no, that wouldn't have necessarily made it legal if it was against their will and he was forcing them. Very May, do you think the prosecution could have done a better job in the Holmes case? I feel like there was still a couple of things they could do to further strengthen their case. Now I'm afraid of a hung jury. I do think they could have done a little bit better job, honestly. And the fact that they want to take next week off tells me they're not that close to a verdict. If they thought it was just a half a day for them to come to a verdict, they just come get it over with Monday. Then you have the rest of the week off. To me, that indicates that we may be in for the long haul on a Holmes verdict. No news about Ghislaine Maxwell, except that the jury is not deliberating today, so we're not going to get a verdict before Christmas. Grant, I think they would have retried her if it was a hung jury. Somebody else asked if she has the opportunity to appeal. Absolutely, and I guarantee you she will appeal. Frog Green, of course I like you. Why wouldn't I like you? So Danielle Steele, can I ask your opinion on the Travis Scott Astroworld concert, more specifically his recent interview? I haven't seen his interview yet, but I actually really enjoy reacting to interviews like Bingers and Richards and the Chauvin jurors and Alec Baldwin. We've reacted to a bunch of interviews, so maybe I'll jump on that. I think just about everybody's going to be liable civilly in that. That's a catastrophe and a tragedy that happened that easily could have been prevented, in my opinion. Easily. All right, let's see what we got here. So Alyssa, how do the holidays affect the flow and momentum of the jury? It's got to be hard. You know they're going to have Christmas with their families on their mind, vacations on their mind. That's something we always worry about as lawyers. We want them to focus on this. We don't want them to rush to a verdict. I'm sure that'll be something that's mentioned in the Potter case, that they rushed to a verdict, even though they took, I think, 26 plus hours to come to that verdict. But you always want the jury focused on this case, especially when you have life and liberty on the line. But it absolutely affects it. And it's not just flow, but they're distractions. Trail runner, love the short, concise clips. I wonder who has time to sit for an hour or two each day watching one presenter. Everybody's different. And I think the people that stream all day have people popping in and out, chatting and stuff like that. So everybody's different. That's awesome. YouTube is it gives you short clips, it gives you long clips, it gives you updates, it gives you recaps, it gives you reactions. You can get what you want. It's like a menu, a la carte. You can pick what you want. I think that's what's cool. So Proverbial High says, honestly, this case feels strange to me. I think that if she didn't announce her intent to use the taser and acted more cool-headed, it was unlikely it would have gone to trial. That's potentially true. But she was being honest and she was doing the right thing. So I don't think people should be punished for that. And I hate when I see criminal defendants punished for doing the right thing, which is she was trying to tase him. She called taser, admitted that she made the mistake. All right, now we're getting through the chat part of the verdict. People guessing Potter's going to get 7.5 years. So some Baldwin questions. There are many gun experts demonstrating that Alec Baldwin had to pull the trigger in order for the gun to fire. How does that play into future legal matters? He clearly lied. What the problem is, his interview is going to be used against him so many times by everybody. That's the number one problem that he's going to deal with. Now, this gun thing, there are actually experts that I have heard say both. And I don't try to become the expert. I listen to what the expert says, I analyze it, and then I use it in my argument, whether it's good or bad for me. So there have been experts that say if the firing pin, I think it's called, is on the end of the hammer and you flick the hammer, that can actually cause the gun to fire. I've heard some say that it can't, that you have to pull the trigger. So it sounds to me like if this were to go to trial, which will be a long time from now, the jury's going to have to listen to expert testimony and make a decision as to who they believe. Grant Uber, I think there's tons of appellate issues throughout this case. The defense attorneys asked for mistrials multiple times throughout, the victim's mother and girlfriend or fiance testifying, and the family members testifying, that a lot of that had no probative value at all as to actually what happened. And it was all prejudicial. And it opened the door, because they were saying what an amazing person he was, but it opened the door to talk about some of his criminal history, which some of it came out. What came out was what the cops knew at the time, so that they could understand that, he was potentially a dangerous subject, and that there was a warrant out for his arrest, which is different than the Kyle Rittenhouse case, where a lot of those alleged victims' criminal histories didn't come out because Rittenhouse didn't know it at the time. The officers did know some of his in the Potter case, but the defense lawyers opened that either A, was just so prejudicial for the jury to hear that and had nothing to do with proving whether or not this was manslaughter, and number two, that it should have opened the door for the jury to hear about his criminal history, to impeach those witnesses as to his character and the victim's character. Also, let me take a quick side note here to talk about victims, because I've heard people get angry in the chat about calling people victims. There are different definitions of victims. And when you say a victim in a criminal case, yes, until there's a conviction, there's no technical victim. But anyone who is hurt or damaged, meaning something stole from or injured, is a victim. Whether or not that person is convicted, if they're at least an alleged victim, if they allege somebody did that to them. So the whole complaining witness thing versus alleged victim, they're alleging that they're the victim. Now, if a judge doesn't want to let you use that term, that's fine. That's the judge's prerogative. Just like they can keep out other terms, and they do in every trial. You'd be shocked how many motions we file to either be allowed to use certain words or phrases, or not, or stop the other side from using certain words or phrases that are triggering. But the whole victim thing, because we do a lot of civil cases, and they're alleged victims from day one, whether or not the case is proven, because they're saying this person hurt or damaged them in a way. Run free. I feel bad for Kim Potter. Harsh punishment reminds me of the trucker getting 110 years. We talked about that as well. Oh, really? Eric said her attitude in court has bothered him. She seems like she's merely inconvenienced by it all. Well, it's a lot more than an inconvenience now, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't ever like to hate on lawyers. In case you haven't noticed, I know a lot of people do, but I don't love to hate on lawyers. I like to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's so stressful, and to have the camera on you is just a whole nother layer. I'm sure maybe he got to know her personally. Sometimes that happens, and if you have an awesome client, it can really be gut wrenching if they get convicted. But he let his emotions show. We've had some really amazing verdicts and some really horrible verdicts, especially in criminal cases where we knew the worst was coming to our client. You just got to keep all that in. You can, nod the head, bite the lip, hang the head even. But, he hit his head not hit his head, but he put his head down on the table, looked like he was wiping his eyes, kept consoling her. He really took it hard. All right. So Aaron Pearson, I really think the jury had a hard time understanding how that kind of a mistake could be made. So I agree, and that was the confusing part about this trial is really making it all about the mistake convicts Potter, because it's a negligent homicide, basically. But focusing on this is a case about force and whether or not she was able to use that force. I'm sorry, I just got an email I've got to respond to really quick. Sorry about that. And I think focusing on the fact that if I was the defense, I probably would have just kind of pushed the mistake over to the side and said, listen, this is about lethal force. She had the right to use legal force in this situation. I wouldn't have even talked much about the mistake if I could have. I feel like they didn't feel like they could have done that. So, I do think it was confusing, though, for the jury, because it's like you're trying to convict her of an accidental killing. She admitted it was an accidental killing on video. So what are we talking about here? So I could see how the jury could have potentially drawn a straight line from there. Yeah, Allison Crone. I'm glad I'm not a police officer. One mistake and you're toast, although I didn't watch the trial. Correct. And that's my point, Starries. When she said she didn't even know why she wanted to use the taser, I thought she was guilty right then. That's the point. Is she can't give an answer because if she would have given the answer as to why she was going to use her taser, it was going to be non-lethal force. And I think the jury can get in her mind and think that based on the video, she chose to use the taser because of the situation she was in, didn't call for her firearm. It's kind of like lawyers saying it's a citizen's arrest, but the defendant never saying it's a citizen's arrest. You try to prove the facts that it was a citizen's arrest, but the jury comes down to the fact that the defendant never even thought it was a citizen's arrest himself. So why are we going to think it's a citizen's arrest? Miss Wee Lassie, yes, I've kind of gone over a couple times what I thought tipped it to a guilty verdict. Kiki, yes, she does have the right to appeal. Law enforcement is struggling to get new recruits, Aaron. You can understand why. Interesting, Montbrink. Every police officer should have no less than 2 years of college constitutional law under their belt. I don't think anybody has 2 years of constitutional law under their belt, including myself, because they don't even teach 2 years of it in law school. They teach 1 year, con law 1 and con law 2. So it's basically 1 year of constitutional law, and it's only one class. It's not, full boat. We're just learning con law. So I don't think that's realistic. But I think what is realistic, and I get your point and I like it, they should have constitutional law classes, I think, for officers, not just if they have to go to college or anything like that. I think once you become an officer, some of the, I almost said CLE, continuing legal education, but whatever they call their continuing education, I think it should have a lot of legal aspects. And we actually have taught at our firm and other lawyers, especially state attorneys or prosecutors, and my dad I know has done a lot of this. We've actually taught law enforcement a lot about the law. They have lawyers in there to teach what to do, what not to do, how to put your reports together. I have friends that are law enforcement officers, and they ask me to say, hey, I've got my depot coming up today. What can I be on the lookout for? What's this lawyer going to try to do to me? Any tips on writing reports? They tell me about some issues they had, like, listen, I screwed up part of this investigation. What's the best way to handle it if I screw up? And I'll tell them, I'll be like, admit it and talk about what effect it could have had on the case, if it could have. And if it was just a Scrivener's error, like a typing error, and had no effect on your outcome, then say that, but admit that you screwed up. Don't try to make it like my report is perfect, I live by my report, if it's not. So I think, law enforcement do have some legal education, but I think they can get more. I like it. Tia Maria Smith. So somebody was talking about earlier in the chat that the sentence is too long. She says, but regular everyday people get sentences that are too long. Why would sentences for cops be any different? This is part of the sentencing guidelines we've talked about, mandatory minimums. They don't want certain things to come into play with how you get your sentence. But if you are a public servant, so not just a cop, but if you're a public servant for 26 years, that is going to come into play with your sentence. But they still have maximums. They still have guidelines. And that's so that there shouldn't be, which we all, can disagree with and have a different conversation about that. I've done podcasts and videos on it. It shouldn't be based on race, socioeconomic status, political party, anything like that, what your sentence is. But yeah, cops fall into the same sentencing guidelines as everyday regular people. Thank you for coming, Heidi. It's been fun, and we'll continue here for another 15 or 20 minutes. Hopefully I've got a 3:30 appointment so I can hang out a little bit till then if you guys have more questions. Alley Cat, glad you're here, bud. Relatively new, glad you found me. If you haven't subscribed already, please, everybody, go jump over and subscribe. We're trying to get to 25,000 before the end of the year. We're really close. It would be awesome if we got it before the end of this video. And hit the like button if you guys have enjoyed the live so far. Some people saying they expect a minimal sentence. Rita, thank you. Let's see here. Heidi, do you think there will be any benefits for legalizing prostitution? I think, will there be any benefits? No. Personally and morally, I don't think there's any benefits to it. But that's just me speaking morally. But if I'm looking at the outlook and where the country's going, I would be shocked if we didn't see a push for that soon. And legalizing prostitution on a more widespread base, letting people decide if that's what they want to do and how they want to make their money. The reason it's gone is because in a time in the past, they have felt like it was destructive to people and something that, like same thing on prohibition, same thing on drugs, why we don't just let people as a society do whatever they want if it's damaging to them and to others. That's why it's been outlawed. But I could see a push for it coming in the near future. All right, let's see what we got here. Ha! Cloutageous. Yep. Come one, come all. All right, let's see what we got. Most people don't celebrate Christmas. It's a dying tradition, Charles said. That's sad. So Montbrink, I would have to know more about it to find if there was criminal negligence. I know some lawyers that have some cases in that case, so I may get some info on it. It could have been prevented with better security measures, not allowing certain people to have better fencing, better plan, just a plan to have that many people and to stop it while it was happening, not just continue going for a long time. Tons of ways it could have been prevented, and not in some cases it's like you could have spent $10 billion making a better product to make it a little bit safer where that might not be reasonable. But in this case, it would have cost them a fraction of their profits to make this safe and to save lives. So in my opinion, easily preventable. Talking about Travis Scott. What do I think Potter will get? I wouldn't be surprised if she got as light as like a 1-year sentence. But I think it's going to be closer to somewhere in the 5 to 10 range. What I would guess. The concept of Christmas is not in the Bible. It depends on your definition of Christmas. New Chris. So Miss Wee Lassie, given Potter was totally upfront in admitting what she'd done, what do you think the judge's sentencing would potentially be? Like I said, I think it'll be 5 to 10 years. Sylvia, can you please explain dispositional departure? So I think in most states, what it means is you can either depart and change the sentence, either go up or down, or once a sentence is announced or executed, it's not actually served by the defendant. So 1 year in prison, but they can get house arrest, or they can do something else other than what it seems like the sentence is. They can depart from it. And what that disposition is, meaning the end of the case, the guilty verdict and the sentence executed, they depart from that and do something else that's not quite as harsh usually. Thank you, Dawn. Thanks for being here. Aaron Pearson agrees with the explanation of of victims. Good, thank you. So Montbrink, I don't know what you mean by, or to a lot of people. Yeah, I think it all depends, and I don't want to say that a lot of people feel that way. I definitely don't feel that way. I absolutely think gross negligence should be punished criminally, even with prison time. One of that semi truck driver with 110 years to me is a little too much, but I think that they absolutely should be punished. Absolutely, I think it's just how much is the real question. Charles Presley, what's happening with the Alec Baldwin case? They're definitely doing an investigation, and Alec Baldwin is definitely involved in that investigation. It's basically all we know at this point. LaTanya Brooks, yes, not under felony, but I think they said when they were reading the verdict, murder while committing a misdemeanor, I think is what the judge said. Could be wrong about that, but either way, it's a manslaughter charge. And yes, David, I do agree to respond to Montbrink about the DUI. That person did intentionally make decisions to get drunk and get behind the wheel of a car. And in that semi-truck driver case, potentially he was just being negligent and swerving in and out, or didn't check the brakes, or didn't stop at the emergency exit. And it wasn't necessarily intentional. It was just not smart or not the best thing to do. So I can understand the semantics. It's good that society is protected from cops with guns making huge mistakes, right? Absolutely. Yes. Society needs to be protected from cops, from the government, from everybody with power. We need to have protections in place personally as citizens in this society. Agreed, Montbrink. Agreed. The real question comes down to, was deadly force necessary? I definitely think her mistake was horrible and she should be punished for her mistake. But what he was doing in resisting arrest and them knowing that he was potentially dangerous and having the car that they were saying was a deadly weapon, which we know legally is correct based on the Ahmaud Arbery case, it was a deadly weapon in that case as well. That's kind of the scenario we have to figure out. And I just thought the defense expert crushed, personally. All right, let's see here. Correct. I don't know why this isn't working. There we go. Hooking is legal in some parts of Nevada. Correct. So expat. If marijuana is legalized at the federal level, what happens to all those in prison for possession? For those out of prison, is the possession crime deleted from their record? So when you get convicted, it's what the law is at the time of your conviction. So not necessarily, but they can do things to make it retroactive. They can also pardon those people, presidential pardons, with governor's pardons, or commutation of their sentence or whatever. They can do things, but it doesn't make it automatically go away. Heidi Robinson, I'm considering taking up part-time residence in Florida starting next summer. How do I live in 2 states? So you can't be domiciled usually in 2 states. There may be some ways around it, but in Florida, in order to get homesteaded, it has to be your primary residence. I can't remember exactly what the percentage of the year is you have to live in it, but you can't be 50-50. So Stella Ford, I don't want to say they caved, meaning like they got the wrong verdict, but I absolutely think nobody wanted to be there past today, which I can't. Can you blame them? That's the question. Can you blame them? It's hard for us to I'm shocked they picked this timing to try this case. I assume they wanted to get the earliest trial date they could, but we always take that into account. We would, I mean, because again, this is not, I would never want to end my case on December 20th or 21st or 22nd. If I could do anything to avoid that, I would. Leather Apron. I'm asking all the Christmas questions. What's your favorite Carol song? I love Pentatonic's Christmas. That's been my like go-to playlist for the last couple of years. I don't know why. I just love it. All their versions of all the songs. Let's see here. I think Holmes will be guilty. That would be my guess. Yes. So yes, but she actually resigned right after the shooting happened. New Chris asked if she lost her pension. I'm sorry. I thought you said police license. She could lose her pension because of this. Yes. I have not seen if that's guaranteed, but she could lose it. Yes. Good question. Grant Uber, do you think this verdict will tell cops not to announce their intentions anymore? The answer to that I would say is no, because police procedure is to announce stuff like that and say taser multiple times so they know it's coming, warn them. And if they continue the action, it's even more so justification for you to use that taser. Yeah, a lot of people saying she didn't come across well on the witness stand. I only watched clips of it. So I thought she did okay in the clips that I saw. Some was good. Some, nobody's perfect. I thought she was okay, not great. JM, I'm a truck driver, 17 years. You can do a brake check, they'll work, and then you don't know what they're bad until you're going down a mountain. Which is why I think 110 years is harsh, personally. Thank you, Lauren. It's Christmas trees. She said, nice shirt or sweet shirt. Try to bring the fun shirts, you know? Merry Christmas to you too. Miss Wee Lassie, Merry Christmas to you as well. Thank you, expat. Dirty Varmint, I disagree with you. I think it's, well, I mean, you can consider it a benefit for the officers as well, but I think it's also a part of the CYA. Like I even said this and they continue to resist. That can be a way to prove a resisting arrest with or without violence charge in criminal court. So, but I understand and I agree. It is also for the protection of the other officers. Merry Christmas, Yana. Merry Christmas, Paula. All right. I think we've gotten to the point here where I'm going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, for joining us live. This was really fun. I didn't know how many people were going to come because of everything that's going on. So this was really fun. Thanks for joining in with us. If you haven't subscribed already, go hit that subscribe button. Maybe you'll be the 25,000th subscriber. And like the video if you enjoyed the live. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it and have a good one.